Hello friends. Have you ever met someone so magnetic, so unpredictable, and yet so deeply empathetic that you just couldn't figure them out? Someone who seems to float above the rules of ordinary life, and yet, when you're around them, you feel seen, understood, and strangely empowered? If so, there's a good chance you've crossed paths with a rare cosmic combo, the Aquarius born in the year of the pig. Now, imagine this: the visionary rebel of the zodiac, Aquarius, infused with the gentle, generous spirit of the Chinese pig. What do you get? A soul that dreams in constellations but loves with the simplicity of a warm hug. A mind that can invent the future, but still remembers your birthday. Let's dive deep into the beautiful, bizarre, and sometimes baffling world of the Aquarius pig. Love, the paradox of freedom and devotion. At first glance, falling in love with an Aquarius born in the year of the pig might feel like trying to hug a cloud, ethereal, beautiful, and entirely out of reach. There's a magnetic quality to them that draws people in, but once someone tries to hold on too tightly, they'll find themselves clutching at air. Aquarius, by nature, resists emotional entanglement that threatens personal freedom. They're analytical, often approaching relationships like an intellectual puzzle, fascinated by human behavior, but not always willing to fully commit to its emotional messiness. Yet, the pig brings in a tender contrast, a soul soaked in compassion, craving warmth, comfort, and shared emotional depth. This makes them a paradox in love, yearning for closeness, yet terrified of suffocation. They're the kind of lovers who will write you a song, then disappear for a weekend retreat in the mountains to reconnect with their inner creativity. This doesn't mean they've stopped caring, quite the opposite. Love, for the Aquarius pig, is deeply sacred, but it has to be on their terms. They seek a partner who's more of an intellectual co-adventurer than a clinger. Someone who says, "I trust you. Go do your thing," and really means it. When that kind of trust is given, they blossom into the most nurturing and thoughtful of companions, often anticipating their partner's needs before being asked. Emotionally, they may not be overly demonstrative in public. They won't always be the ones posting lovey-dovey captions or making grand declarations. But in private, they'll show love in meaningful, personal ways. Remembering your favorite snack, sending articles that made them think of you, or drawing you a bath after a long day. Love, for them, isn't performative, it's a constant undercurrent of thoughtful actions. And when they feel emotionally safe, their affection pours out like honey, slow, sweet, and sincere. Still, you'll need patience. Their Aquarian coolness can sometimes come off as disinterest, especially in the early stages of a relationship. The pig side craves emotional security, but Aquarius can delay vulnerability until they're certain it's safe. This internal tug of war might lead them to retreat without warning, just when things were starting to feel close. Don't panic, it's not rejection, it's self-preservation. They need time to process. The irony? Once they've chosen you, they're incredibly loyal. Fiercely so. They'll defend you in any room, support your dreams, and build a quiet empire with you, brick by brick. Sexually, they can be just as complex. The pig seeks sensual connection, soft touches, emotional intensity, shared pleasure. Aquarius, meanwhile, is more experimental and cerebral. Combined, this creates a unique kind of intimacy. Playful, curious, deeply bonding, but not necessarily conventional. They're turned on by trust, by being understood, and by shared ideas more than raw lust. If the emotional connection is there, the physical one will be surprisingly rich, though it may take time and open communication to unlock. Jealousy rarely fits in their emotional wardrobe. In fact, they find possessiveness deeply unattractive. They view love as something freely given, not owned. Try to control them, and they'll vanish. Respect their autonomy, however, and they'll reward you with a love that is rare, unforced, wise, and intensely authentic. They're not here for power struggles or emotional games. They're here to grow with you, to challenge you, and to love you in a way that feels expansive, never restrictive. In the long run, relationships with Aquarius pigs are deeply fulfilling, though they may not look traditional. Think of love with them as a living piece of modern art, abstract, surprising, but full of meaning. It's a relationship built not on domination or dependence, but mutual elevation. The trick is to love them for who they are, not who you want them to be. Because when they feel free to be themselves, they'll show up for you in ways most people only dream of. Marriage, built on ideals and tenderness. Marriage, for the Aquarius born in the year of the pig, is never a default decision. It's not a checkbox to be ticked off by a certain age, nor is it a societal expectation to conform to. It's a sacred pact, a promise to grow, to build, and to continuously evolve alongside another soul. These individuals often take their time entering such a commitment. They approach it not with rose-colored glasses, but with a quiet intensity that asks, can this relationship nurture both my freedom and my desire for emotional intimacy? The internal dialogue is constant. Will this be a marriage of minds and hearts, or will it slowly suffocate who I am? They seek a partner who can challenge them intellectually, offer emotional warmth, and co-create a life that balances chaos with comfort. Until they find that, they're content to wait. What makes their concept of marriage different is how deeply it's rooted in ideals. Aquarius pigs dream big when it comes to partnership. They don't want a partner just to split bills and raise kids. They want to build a micro-universe with someone, one built on shared values, mutual respect, and continuous reinvention. This is not about picket fences and dinner parties. This is about a marriage that feels like a movement, something that stands for love, growth, and perhaps even social impact. They dream of mornings spent reading together in silence, late-night debates on the state of the world, and travels that spark their creativity. The pig side craves emotional safety, while the Aquarius side refuses to be trapped. Together, they create a vision of marriage that is as cozy as it is revolutionary. Don't expect a marriage filled with repetitive routines or predictable behavior. These individuals redefine tradition on their own terms. They might insist on separate workspaces, annual, solo retreats, or unconventional forms of intimacy. They won't always fit the mold of what a marriage should look like, and frankly, they don't care to. For them, love thrives in freedom, and commitment is expressed through trust and presence, not constant togetherness. That means they might prefer a quiet evening working on individual projects in the same room over a night of forced couple activities. They find beauty in parallel play, being separate but connected, which speaks volumes about their ability to love without losing the self. Yet for all their quirks and independence, they have a surprisingly tender side that blooms once they feel safe. The pig energy softens the cool detachment of Aquarius, creating a spouse who remembers your coffee order, notices when you're low, and leaves little notes on your pillow for no reason at all. They want to make their partner feel seen, not just in the obvious ways, but in the subtle emotional nuances that most people overlook. Their thoughtfulness isn't loud, but it's deeply felt. They'll defend your dreams as fiercely as they defend their own. Marriage, to them, is a daily act of choosing someone not because you have to, but because you truly, consciously want to, again and again. There is also an inherently philosophical tone to their view of marriage. They see it as a lifelong classroom, a place where growth is not just encouraged, but expected. They'll question the roles they play in the relationship. They'll revisit their vows mentally, not just during anniversaries but after arguments, after growth spurts, after moments of silence. They want to be in a marriage that changes with the seasons, one that allows for reinvention. That's why you might find them spontaneously renewing vows, changing life paths together, or shifting the entire dynamic of their household in the name of growth. It's not instability, it's intentional evolution. And yes, expect the unexpected. Anniversary trips that double as humanitarian missions. Love notes written in code. Joint business ventures or charity projects. This is the kind of couple that turns date nights into brainstorming sessions for community projects or spends weekends building a greenhouse in their backyard, just because. Their marriage is full of surprise, but never lacking in meaning. Every choice, every gesture, is infused with a sense of purpose, whether it's planting trees together, adopting animals, or designing a shared creative space. In short, marriage with an Aquarius pig isn't about perfection. It's about partnership that breathes. One that holds space for solitude and togetherness, ideas and emotions, stability and change. It's a marriage that might confuse outsiders but feels like home to the two people inside it. And when they find the right person, someone who understands their rhythm and respects their soul, they'll give their heart, their mind, and their life's purpose fully. Not out of obligation, but out of love. Sex, a dance of mind and body. Sex with an Aquarius born in the year of the pig isn't just about friction, it's about fusion. This is a person who wants more than the physical. They want the mystical, the mental, and the emotional, all wrapped into one unforgettable experience. The Aquarius influence makes them natural explorers in bed, not just of bodies, but of ideas, roles, and possibilities. They're not afraid to test boundaries, redefine norms, or turn the bedroom into a theater of the mind. Think more conceptual art installation than a scene from a romance novel. Their imagination is vast, often blurring the line between fantasy and philosophy. And yes, if you're up for talking about the nature of consciousness in the middle of a steamy session, they'll be right there with you, equally turned on by your brain as your body. But this isn't a cold, detached kind of experimentation. Enter the pig. Earthy, warm, and deeply sensual. The pig softens Aquarius's analytical edges, grounding their wild ideas in the tender mechanics of touch, taste, smell, and presence. Once they feel emotionally safe, the Aquarius pig becomes a deeply affectionate, giving, and receptive lover. They want to please, not out of obligation or ego, but because they genuinely find joy in mutual satisfaction. They care how you feel. They notice what you like. They ask questions, not because they're insecure, but because curiosity is their love language. To them, sex is a constantly unfolding dialogue, where both partners are students and teachers, co-creating something sacred through openness and trust. Their sexual rhythm might feel a little unpredictable at first. Sometimes, they need space before they can be physically present. Their mind might be running laps around abstract concepts, and getting them to settle into their body can take a little patience. But when they're tuned in, they're deeply tuned in. They'll give you their full attention, reading your responses like a poem and adjusting their pace, energy, or touch accordingly. They're the kind of lover who will notice the subtle change in your breathing and shift their movements instinctively. That attunement doesn't come from instinct alone. It comes from a place of care, intention, and an almost spiritual respect for the intimacy being shared. Don't be surprised if your sexual connection with them feels cinematic. They love creating atmosphere. Lighting matters, music matters, mood matters. They might burn incense, cue up a playlist that matches the emotional arc of the night, or suggest a fantasy that blends science fiction and softcore poetry. It's not about showing off, it's about setting the stage for transcendence. They want sex to feel like stepping into another dimension, one where all masks are off, and nothing is too weird to be shared. In this space, vulnerability isn't feared, it's worshipped. And yet, beneath all this creativity and complexity lies a very real emotional need, meaning. If the sex is empty of connection, they'll feel it in their bones. Casual encounters can leave them feeling strangely hollow unless there's at least a hint of intellectual rapport or emotional resonance. This doesn't mean they can't enjoy physical pleasure, they absolutely can, but to really come alive in bed, they need to feel seen, understood, invited into something that feels uniquely theirs with you. Sex, to them, is not just a release, it's a ritual. A way of saying, this moment, this connection, is something we created together, and no one else can replicate it. They also believe in evolving intimacy. They don't want to do the same thing over and over again unless it has meaning. They'll read books about erotic psychology, try tantric workshops, or introduce sensual games that require emotional presence. They want to expand, not just perform. And they want you to be honest, too, about what you want, what you fear, what you fantasize about when no one's looking. They're not here to judge. They're here to learn, respond, and explore together. Above all, sex with an Aquarius pig is collaborative. It's about mutual discovery. It's a dance where no one leads all the time, and the steps are invented in the moment. When trust is earned and curiosity is mutual, They'll invite you into a world of deep, imaginative, and emotionally intelligent passion, the kind that leaves both mind and body humming for days. Friendship, the humanitarian heart. Friendship with an Aquarius born in the year of the pig is like having a soulmate who also happens to be your unofficial life coach, crisis therapist, comedic relief, and spontaneous adventure partner, all rolled into one. These individuals take friendship seriously, but not traditionally. They're not about the routine check-ins or forced birthday calls. They're about depth, honesty, and showing up when it really counts. The Aquarius side is driven by intellect and individuality, and it draws people in with a natural magnetism. They seem like they belong to another dimension, yet they're fully present when you're speaking. Meanwhile, the pig brings emotional softness and compassion, giving them the kind of warmth that makes people feel instantly at ease. When you're their friend, you're not just another contact. You're part of their tribe, their chosen family, and they'll go to great lengths to protect and empower you. These are the kinds of friends who remember the obscure detail you once mentioned about your childhood and surprise you with something meaningful months later. They love people's quirks and often befriend those others overlook, the socially awkward, the misunderstood, the unconventional. They see the soul beneath the surface and are drawn to authenticity more than social polish. The Aquarius in them is fascinated by what makes people tick. They want to understand your worldview, your trauma, your dreams. The pig, on the other hand, provides emotional gravity, that gentle, loyal grounding force that turns casual bonds into unbreakable connections. This duality means their friendships are both mentally stimulating and emotionally nourishing. They're not just fun to talk to, they make you feel seen. One of their most defining traits is their ability to show up in moments of chaos. While others might back off when things get messy, the Aquarius pig leans in. They thrive in emotional emergencies, offering not just comfort but also clarity. They're the friend who shows up with soup, tissues, a detailed to-do list, and a TED Talk recommendation that somehow applies perfectly to your heartbreak. And they don't expect anything in return. Their altruism is authentic. The pig side gives generously without strings attached, while Aquarius finds purpose in being useful, especially when it comes to healing or progress. When you're low, they'll hold space for your pain without judgment. When you're thriving, they'll cheer louder than anyone else. Their loyalty is not loud or performative, it's deeply rooted in love. And yet, despite their deep emotional availability, they need solitude like they need air. Aquarius energy craves distance to recharge intellectually and spiritually. The pig, though emotionally rich, is easily overwhelmed when overstimulated. So, this friend will disappear from time to time. They might go quiet for days, not because they don't care, but because they're recalibrating their inner world. They need space to think, to rest, to be. They'll re-emerge with new ideas, renewed affection, and usually a strange but insightful story to tell. The worst thing you can do is guilt them for needing that space. Friendship, to them, is a contract of mutual respect, and part of that means honoring boundaries. Their inner circle is usually small but diverse. They value quality over quantity and are wary of people who drain energy without contributing depth or authenticity. They'll happily chat with anyone at a party, but their true friends are the ones who understand their contradictions, the need for connection and detachment, the mix of logic and empathy, the constant pursuit of something bigger than themselves. They often gravitate toward creatives, healers, thinkers, and rebels, anyone who questions the status quo and dares to be real. Friendship, for them, isn't about surface-level compatibility, it's about shared truth. What truly sets them apart is their desire to build something with their friends. It could be a passion project, a nonprofit idea, a book club that becomes a philosophical think tank. Aquarius pigs want friendship to mean something, not just drinks and gossip but co-evolution. They want to uplift their friends, inspire them, challenge them, and grow with them. They're the ones who'll push you toward your dream job, help you write your manifesto, or randomly send you grant applications they think you should apply for. They want the people they love to expand, and they'll offer both emotional support and intellectual fire to make it happen. In the end, having an Aquarius pig as a friend is like having a mirror that shows your highest potential, and a warm blanket when life gets cold. They are rare, brilliant, sensitive creatures who ask only one thing in return: let them be who they are. Accept their quirks, respect their space, and love them in the quiet, open-hearted way they love you. Do that, and you'll have a lifelong friend who will stand beside you through every breakdown, breakthrough, and evolution, possibly while planning your next revolution over coffee. Business career, vision-driven hustlers. An Aquarius born in the year of the pig brings an electric, visionary presence to any professional space, one that's equally driven by purpose and innovation. They don't just work, they create, challenge, and reimagine. These are the people who walk into a boardroom and start talking about sustainability, mental health policy, or AI ethics, not because it's trendy, but because they believe business should serve humanity, not just shareholders. The Aquarius in them thrives on disruption. They are often 10 steps ahead of the market, sensing trends, technologies, and cultural shifts long before others catch on. The pig, on the other hand, brings a compassionate backbone to that visionary energy, ensuring their pursuits have emotional depth and real-world impact. For them, work isn't about status. It's about leaving something better than they found it. In terms of personality on the job, Aquarius pigs are natural problem solvers and unconventional thinkers. They excel in careers that require creativity, originality, and a willingness to challenge the system. Think tech, environmental policy, social entrepreneurship, education reform, or design. They love asking why and what if, and they're not afraid to question authority if the reasoning behind it doesn't sit right with their values. But unlike the cold rebel archetype, their pig side keeps them grounded in empathy. They don't just break things down for the sake of rebellion. They break things open to allow in something more humane, more intelligent, more useful. This makes them powerful agents of change who know how to balance idealism with action. Their work ethic is unusual but admirable. The pig side gives them quiet determination, grit, and an ability to stay the course, especially when they believe in what they're doing. They'll spend hours perfecting a system, designing a prototype, or coaching a team member through burnout if it serves the larger mission. They don't need to be the loudest in the room to be the most influential. Their leadership style is democratic and vision-first. They care more about the why than the who. They don't hustle for validation. They hustle for meaning. Their motivation isn't rooted in ambition for its own sake. It's about creating systems and ideas that improve lives, often on a broad scale. While they appreciate financial stability, Aquarius pigs are unlikely to chase money blindly. If they find themselves in a soulless corporate environment, they'll either burn out or break out. They need emotional connection to their work, and ideally, a sense of contribution to something bigger than themselves. If given the choice between a six-figure job with no soul and a modest paycheck doing something transformative, they'll lean toward the latter. However, don't mistake that for impracticality. They're quite capable of building wealth, they just want to do it their way. Their inventiveness, combined with a strong ethical compass, often leads them to entrepreneurial ventures or positions of influence in mission-driven organizations. Collaboration is another defining trait. Despite Aquarius's reputation for aloofness, this combo genuinely enjoys teamwork, as long as it's built on mutual respect and freedom. They cannot and will not thrive in micromanaged environments. Bureaucracy frustrates them, inefficiency drains them. They crave workspaces where emotional intelligence is valued, where autonomy is respected, and where they're trusted to create and execute. The pig part of them wants harmony, so they often serve as the bridge between the visionary and the practical, between the big dream and the people who'll help make it real. They're the colleague who brings snacks to brainstorming sessions and also quietly reworks the business model behind the scenes to make it more equitable. They also have a quiet but magnetic leadership quality. They're not always the first to speak in meetings, but when they do, people listen. They inspire through vision, not volume. Through consistency, not control. They lift others up, share credit generously, and genuinely enjoy helping teammates reach their potential. You'll often find them mentoring younger colleagues or advocating for fairer policies inside their organization. They believe leadership is not about power, it's about responsibility. They lead from the heart and from the head, and that rare balance often turns them into deeply respected figures within their professional communities. Ultimately, the Aquarius pig in business is a creative force of nature. Give them a little room to roam, and they'll develop an idea that changes your company. Give them a cause they believe in, and they'll stay up for days working to bring it to life. Let them lead with their values, and they'll inspire a team to care more, do more, and imagine more than they thought possible. Their career path is never linear. It's a constellation of moments, breakthroughs, risks, reinventions. But one thing is always clear: they were never in it for the title. They were in it to make something that matters. And they usually do. Dark sides: idealism meets escapism. Every personality carries shadows, and for the Aquarius born in the year of the pig, those shadows are a complex weave of contradiction and emotional conflict. On the surface, they seem progressive, grounded, and deeply thoughtful, but beneath that composed exterior lies a battleground between the head and the heart. One of their most fundamental inner struggles is rooted in emotional detachment versus emotional yearning. The Aquarius side craves space, logic, and independence, often withdrawing when emotions feel overwhelming or irrational. Meanwhile, the pig within them aches for deep, soulful connection. This can lead to a kind of emotional tug-of-war where they both long for intimacy and push it away when it gets too close. This contradiction often leaves their partners and friends confused, and it leaves the Aquarius pig themselves feeling secretly lonely, misunderstood, even by those they love most. This internal dissonance can manifest in unexpected ways. At times, they may come across as cold or indifferent, especially when faced with emotionally charged situations. The Aquarian detachment can override the pig's sensitivity, causing them to shut down or intellectualize pain rather than sit with it. But this denial isn't strength, it's avoidance. They may label their emotions as unproductive or irrational, and in doing so, miss the opportunity to process them fully. On the flip side, when they do allow themselves to feel, the pig's emotional floodgates can swing wide open, and they risk getting swallowed in moodiness, nostalgia, or misplaced emotional investments. This imbalance can lead to them yo-yoing between hyper-rational detachment and overwhelming emotional indulgence, with little middle ground to stand on. Another shadow trait lies in their idealism turning to judgment. Aquarius pigs often have strong values, a deep sense of ethics, and a crystal-clear vision of how the world should be. But that clarity can sometimes curdle into moral superiority. They may become preachy, condescending, or dismissive of differing views, convinced that their intellectual or spiritual frameworks are more evolved. They don't always realize they're doing it. A raised eyebrow here, a passive-aggressive comment there, a lengthy unsolicited lecture on societal reform, all can alienate the very people they're trying to inspire. When this happens, they may find themselves isolated, wondering why no one gets it. And rather, escapism is one of their most consistent temptations, especially when life doesn't match their high ideals. While many signs might numb themselves through physical means, the Aquarius pig often escapes mentally or emotionally. They might disappear into elaborate fantasies, binge intellectual content to avoid reality, or romanticize the past to the point of distortion. The pig's love for comfort and pleasure can lead to overindulgence in food, entertainment, or emotional daydreaming. The Aquarius side may become obsessed with abstract projects that never fully manifest, using research or planning as a substitute for action. This kind of subtle escapism can feel productive on the surface but leaves them stagnating in the long run, disconnected from the present, avoiding the very work or relationships that would bring true fulfillment. Another pitfall lies in their deep-seated indecision. Aquarius pigs are often trapped between their soaring vision of what could be and the harsh limits of what is. Their minds can generate a dozen equally exciting ideas at once, leaving them frozen, unsure of where to begin. Meanwhile, their pig side wants emotional security and reassurance, but when faced with uncertainty, it may slip into worry or inertia. They may procrastinate not because they're lazy, but because they're afraid of making the wrong move and betraying their inner standards. Their perfectionism can be crippling. They set the bar sky high for themselves, and then struggle under the pressure of their own expectations. Worse still, they may project these standards onto others, expecting friends, partners, or coworkers to meet impossible benchmarks of insight, integrity, or emotional sophistication. At their darkest, Aquarius pigs can lose themselves in loops of internal contradiction. They may feel out of place in the world, too weird for the mainstream, too sensitive for the fringe. This feeling of existential exile can lead to depressive tendencies or cynical detachment. They may adopt a kind of emotionally numb idealism, convincing themselves that they're better off alone or that people just aren't ready for their depth. But underneath the aloof exterior is always the pig's longing to be loved, to be understood, to belong. This contradiction can cause a kind of identity fatigue. They're constantly switching masks, visionary one day, nurturer the next, hermit the day after. Without conscious self-reflection, this cycle can feel endless and exhausting. But here's the truth. These dark patterns, while real, are not permanent. The Aquarius pig has an enormous reservoir of self-awareness and emotional intelligence. When they choose to look inward, not to judge, but to understand, they can begin to integrate their opposing forces. They can learn that detachment doesn't have to mean disconnection, that ideals can coexist with human imperfection, and that growth doesn't require escapism. The very traits that cause them conflict, intellect, empathy, idealism, depth, are also the tools they can use to heal and evolve. Their personal evolution is about balance, learning to hold space for both their logic and their longing, choosing to stay present when vulnerability strikes, finding peace not in perfection, but in the messiness of life itself. When they do that, they don't just overcome their shadows, they transform them into the very soil from which their deepest strengths grow. Life purpose: building a better world, one idea at a time. At the heart of the Aquarius pig's life purpose lies a quiet but unshakable belief: things can always be better. Not just for themselves, but for everyone. They aren't here to simply live, they're here to transform, to shift systems, challenge norms, inspire minds, and heal hearts. Their fuel is hope, but not the fluffy, idealistic kind. It's grounded, intentional hope, the kind that rolls up its sleeves and gets to work. The Aquarius in them has a visionary mind that sees what could be. The pig gives them the emotional drive to actually care enough to build it. This makes their life purpose both deeply intellectual and profoundly human. They don't just want to change the world, they want to elevate it, idea by idea, gesture by gesture, connection by connection. From an early age, Aquarius pigs often feel like outsiders, not in a tragic or misunderstood way, but in a quietly observant one. They notice things others miss. They question authority, challenge traditions, and wonder why the world works the way it does. As children and teenagers, this can make them feel disconnected or out of sync. While others are chasing popularity or following rules, they're daydreaming about social reform, imagining new learning systems, or writing manifestos no one asked for. The pig's sensitivity makes them feel the weight of the world early on, while the Aquarius mind won't let them accept simple answers. This combination often births a powerful inner drive to make meaning out of their difference, to do something with it. Their purpose often begins to clarify through service, not in a performative or self-sacrificing way, but in a soul-aligned way. The pig in them wants to nurture, uplift, and heal. The Aquarius wants to push boundaries, challenge broken systems, and find innovative ways to solve persistent problems. Put them together, and you get a purpose rooted in compassionate disruption. You'll find them launching grassroots movements, creating ethical tech platforms, teaching from the heart, or using art to spark conversation. They want to wake people up, but they want to do it gently, meaningfully, with depth and vision. Their path is rarely traditional, but it's always impactful. Even if the world doesn't fully understand what they're doing yet, they keep going, because they trust the value of their calling. Purpose for them is never just about career, it's a way of life. They bring meaning to the smallest moments, to how they speak to strangers, to how they support friends, to how they choose their words, their projects, their battles. They aren't satisfied with surface-level success. They want depth, alignment, resonance, a sense that what they're doing is not just clever, but conscious. They often find themselves drawn to hybrid roles: the tech founder who also mentors underprivileged youth, the artist who organizes community activism, the scientist who writes poetry. They're multidimensional, and their purpose reflects that. To box them into one lane is to miss the richness of what they're here to offer. And yes, their path is full of tension, between the self and the collective, between vision and reality, between solitude and connection. They often wrestle with the feeling that the world moves too slowly, that systems resist change, that people aren't ready for the kind of future they see so clearly. This can lead to moments of burnout, disillusionment, or withdrawal. But the pig keeps them emotionally rooted, reminding them that even small acts of service matter. That healing isn't always loud. That sometimes, purpose is less about massive change and more about meaningful presence. One person helped, one system improved, one life changed. They may dream in revolutions, but they know how to plant seeds too. As they mature, Aquarius pigs often become mentors, guides, and thought leaders, not in the influencer sense, but in the true sense. People come to them for clarity, for wisdom, for a different way of seeing. Their balanced integration of logic and emotion makes them rare, and their ability to navigate complexity with heart makes them essential. They aren't here to dominate the spotlight, they're here to move it, to shine it where it matters. They may not always be the face of change, but they're often the architect behind it. They write the blueprints, they coach the leaders, they build the foundation others will stand on. Ultimately, the Aquarius pig's life purpose is to be a bridge between future and present, between mind and heart, between individuality and collective good. They are here to remind us that vision doesn't have to come at the expense of compassion, and that empathy doesn't mean sacrificing brilliance. Through their work, their creativity, and their very presence, they give people permission to imagine more and to feel deeper. They show us what's possible, not by preaching, but by embodying it. Their legacy isn't just what they build, it's how they make others believe they can build, too. So, if you know an Aquarius born in the year of the pig, treasure them. They might not be the easiest person to understand at first. They're full of contradictions, part dreamer, part realist, wildly passionate one day, emotionally distant the next. They'll go on a 20-minute tangent about the ethics of artificial intelligence, then stop mid-sentence to help a stray dog cross the road. They're the ones in the friend group who are a little too invested in community gardens, a little too honest at dinner parties, and a little too willing to take on the emotional labor of everyone around them, even when no one asked. But beneath their quirks and intensity lies a heart that beats for something bigger than themselves. They care, often more than they let on, about people, about the planet, about creating a better, fairer, more meaningful world. They may be weird, but they are the good kind of weird, the kind the future depends on. These individuals often walk a path that's misunderstood. They challenge expectations, resist easy labels, and refuse to shrink themselves into something convenient. They're not trying to be rebellious, they just are different. And that difference is sacred. When you befriend or love an Aquarius pig, you gain someone who will stand by you when everyone else disappears. Someone who will listen to your wildest idea and take it seriously. Someone who will send you a podcast at 2 a.m. because it reminded them of that thing you said once. Their loyalty isn't loud, but it's unwavering. Their love may not always be packaged in predictable ways, but it is deep, nourishing, and authentic. They are the rare kind of person who sees you, not just your surface, but your potential, your contradictions, your truth, and loves you because of it, not in spite of it. They might not always say the right thing. Their Aquarius nature can be a little blunt, a little too cerebral in emotional moments. And their pig side can lead them into moods or bouts of romantic nostalgia that make them seem distant. But these are people who are trying their best to be honest, present, and emotionally real in a world that often encourages the opposite. They don't hide behind small talk. They won't give you empty compliments. Instead, they offer their full self, their curiosity, their ideas, their kindness, their flaws, with a kind of brave transparency that is both rare and beautiful. They don't just want connection. They want real connection, the kind that transforms both people involved. They are also incredibly creative beings. Not always in the traditional, paint on a canvas way, but in how they think, how they solve problems, how they tell stories, how they imagine better systems. Their creativity is not a hobby, it's a worldview. They are constantly weaving new ways of being, dreaming up solutions no one else sees, noticing beauty in places most people ignore. Their inner world is vast, and if you're lucky enough to be invited into it, you'll find layers of meaning, insight, and compassion that can take your breath away. They often carry a wisdom far beyond their years, not because they've had all the answers, but because they've asked all the questions, and they've sat with the discomfort of not knowing. And if you are the Aquarius Pig, this is your reminder that your difference is not a defect. It's a design. The world needs people like you, people who challenge without destroying, who dream without detaching, who care without controlling. You are here not to fit in, but to lift up, to illuminate new paths, to be the bridge between innovation and emotion, between vision and compassion, between the mind and the soul. You are not too much. You are not too sensitive, too strange, too idealistic. You are exactly what this world is lacking, and you are needed now more than ever. Keep dreaming your wild dreams. Keep loving with that brave, open heart. Keep being exactly who you are, because who you are is extraordinary. If this deep dive into the soul of the Aquarius Pig resonated with you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and check out the rest of our videos on the channel. Whether you're here to decode your cosmic blueprint or just get a little more insight into yourself or someone you love, there's more waiting for you. Hit that bell icon so you never miss a chance to grow, learn, and align with the stars. And remember, the universe may have written the prologue, but you hold the pen now. Thanks for watching.